We're using Dreamweaver CC, and it has its latest update. It's January 2015. The latest update brings the extract mode to Dreamweaver. What we're going to do today is set up the site, set up Dreamweaver to work on your computer. 2, we're going to configure the workspace. And 3, we're going to open up a template and modify it a bit. First off, what we're looking at is the extract mode, which we're not even going to be using, but what this is going to allow people to do is to actually pull from Photoshop a PSD file with layers, import it into Dreamweaver, and export it as a web page. But we're not going to be using that. So I'm just going to grab this panel and delete it. Next, I'm going to go to Create New and HTML. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go up to Site. And I want to do New Site and give it a name. Next, I'm going to navigate to a folder that I've created or that I've downloaded. In this case, it's downloaded. It's the starter folder. It's on my desktop. And I'm going to use that to set the site. Starting folder, choose. Now the site's all set. So the next thing is go and do a little bit more fine-tuning on this workspace. So I'm going to go up to Window, and I'm going to go to Workspace Layout. I have Code, Design, and Extract. We don't want to use the extract mode. What we want to use is the design mode. So I'm going to click on Design, and you see that you have your space set up with the code on the left, the design view on the right, which is a split view, and you have all your other panels right up here. What I'm going to do is go up here, and just to make sure, I'm going to go up to Reset Design. Because what Dreamweaver does is, the last time you used Dreamweaver, you pulled a panel over. Say you pulled this CSS design panel over, and you left it there. When you open up Dreamweaver the next time, what's going to happen is this same panel will be there because Dreamweaver thinks that that is where you wanted the panel to be. So what you're going to do to remedy that is you're going to go up to Workspace Layout, and instead of going to Design, you're going to Reset Design. We have 3 panels up here we need. CSS Designer, Files, and Insert. We don't need assets and we don't need snippets. Grab assets, grab snippets, then go up Workspace Layout and do New Workspace. See, I've already done this and I called my workspace Kevin. So if I go back up there and open it up in Kevin, this is what I have. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the folder by going Open, and you'll go right to the starting folder because you've already set that as being your folder. We're going to go to Bare Bones HTML. It's an HTML page I made, and I call it Bare Bones because basically all you have is the CSS and the HTML. So when it's a lot less confusing than looking at a template that you'd open from Dreamweaver. So I go Open, and I get to see right over here the sidebar. Here's my HTML. There's the divs, the open and the closed, and it's called Sidebar because it needs to communicate with the CSS. All your HTML is between the 2 body tags. All the divs are as rectangles. And all the divs are as rectangles, and rectangles that go all the way across the page, unless the CSS is able to connect to it and say, you're going to be this wide and this tall. Look right up here at the header. I know already that this is, I'm going to select it. No, that's the header area right there. So when you look up here in header, the height is 200 and the width is 960. If I were to go in there and change the 6 to a 2, you see what happens. It doesn't go all the way across now. By default, any div you put in is going to be pulled to the left and go to the top. So this is your HTML. Here's your header. Here's your sidebar right here. This would be your sidebar. There's your content area. And you can see the width is 780. One of the most important things, the very first thing you do when you're building a site like this, which is a false dead center is you build a container, and the container is what holds everything in. It's a div that wraps around everything. It's 960 pixels, in this case by 1,000 height. So the container, you can see 960, the height is 1,000. And that's going to hold all these other divs in. So if you look at container here, here's the open tag, and there's the closing tag down there, with all the other divs having their open and closing tags. Your CSS, you can almost think of your CSS container. If I was talking about a car, I might say car, and then make, Corvette, color, black, engine, 554, wheels, 4. We're working in a digital realm here as opposed to a physical, but I'm sure you can understand how that would work. So I'm going to close out of this and go in, open up a template. Go to New, Blank Page, HTML, 2-column. This is what it looks like. Here's the 3-column, but I'm going to use the 2. And it's HTML5, and I'm just going to do Create. So like I was telling you before, you see all these comments are put in here. You know, this looks a lot more convoluted or muddled or whatever when you look at this code than what we had been looking at previously. And that's because there's a real lot of comments put in here by the person who developed this template. And the reason they put them in is to help people who come along and work after them. We're going to import a top image that's going to be 960 pixels by 200 height. So I'm looking at the header area here. I have it selected. We have a logo right here. I don't want that. I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to go up, look for the header, see if they put this header. They didn't put a height or a width. As long as my picture is 960 pixels across, the height doesn't have any constraints on it. So what I'm going to do is come over here to the Insert panel. You can think of the Insert panel as almost your toolbar. You have a lot of different tools here to work with different things. For our purposes, we'll be using Structure or Common. Here's Media, jQuery, Templates. So I'm just going to be using Common. And you see you can add a div here. But what we want to do right now is insert an image. Now, one thing before I do that, I know my cursor is right up there. That's where my image is going to go, right in that block. So I come back up here to Insert, go to Image, back to Starting Folder, our lean site, and take one of these 3 because they're all 960 pixels across. Just say OK. So what we're going to do is a couple of minor color changes here. By selecting the areas, we're going to find the CSS that's associated with it. We're in the CSS Designer panel. So what you do is you click on Style, and you see all your selectors. The header, which we just added a picture to. The sidebar, which is right here. Content, which should be right in here. And you'll see all this by selecting the actual areas. So I select this, see div class sidebar. That's telling me. Now if we look over here, I see sidebar selected. And here's the properties. So the properties are going to be everything I want to do as far as style is concerned with this, which includes a background color. So what I'm going to do is scroll over here, and I should see an icon that says background. I'm going to grab that. So now I can see the color here is associated with this color of the sidebar. I'm going to take it and maybe try changing it to that. You can take these panels and pull them, if you need more room. One thing we're not going to be using is the @media, right? So basically don't pay any attention to that. All you're paying attention to is the sources, the selectors, and the properties. And the properties are going to have all the panels. Either you can scroll them or you can use these icons. So you have an option of doing either one. So hope that helps. Thanks. Bye.